Hello and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel, your source for all things Everton. My name is Thomas, back on the channel with some more Rafa Benitez reaction for you. Joined today by Mike from the Unholy Trinity Podcast. Couldn't quite get that out there. Mike, thanks for coming back on the channel. How are you doing?
More than welcome, mate. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Been a busy sort of 24, 48 hours for the Blues on more than one front. So look forward to discussing our new manager.
Yeah, certainly. It's been a very polarising appointment. Probably the appointment that, at the end of the day, the majority did not want. There is a minority of fans who are going to be happy with the appointment. We're going to obviously kind of address. There will be some positives. It's not all negative. And personally, when the news first came out, I was livid. I can't understand why they've gone from, especially considering there were other options, the likes of Nuno Espirito Santo, who, by the sounds of the rumours in the papers, didn't quite impress them enough in his interview. I'm not really sure what Benitez has said to them that was so impressive compared to Nuno. But Mike, just your general reaction to the whole appointment. We've known it's been coming for a few days now, but it is now official. So what are your initial thoughts?
I think when he first became the front runner, and it was becoming evident as the days went on that he was going to be the man to get the job. I think obviously you always naturally, however much you want to say, you put it to the back of your mind and you don't consider it. Naturally, you go back to the fact that he's a former Liverpool manager. I think naturally for some people, you go back to the fact that he said certain things going back 15 years ago, whatever it might have been. And so it's always going to come into your mind. However much people have been saying that it doesn't. And the biggest concern is, he hasn't done a great deal or hasn't had much success in recent years. That's always going to come into Everton fans' mind. You can't push it away. It's just part and parcel of the process. So initially, when he became the front runner, obviously, like yourself, a little bit angry, thinking, what are we doing? This isn't an appointment which is massively divisive. There's the board or the rumours from the board are that they want to appoint someone to bring in some stability with the run up to Bramley Moore, to make sure, let's get it right, that we're in the Premier League. That's the first concern when it comes to getting investors into the new ground, and make sure we're in the Premier League. And they want to bring someone in who knows the league, who's managed various teams in it, has had varied success with those teams. So they've gone down that particular road, but I don't really get that because of the fact of it is a divisive appointment. We saw the protests in terms of the bed sheets outside the ground, and going that one step too far by putting banners up not far from his home, which was just ridiculous. So it was never ever going to be an appointment or a rumour that was going to satisfy the bulk of the fans. Let's get it right. And if we do put to one side the fact that he's a former Liverpool manager, the fact that he won the Champions League with Liverpool, the fact that he made certain comments, which are important to some people. We have to just look at what he's done in recent times, and obviously didn't do a great deal in China. Took over at Newcastle to try and save them and couldn't save them, and took them down, brought them straight back up. Did okay. I think he got a bit of a free ride at Newcastle, to be honest, because Newcastle fans don't like Mike Ashley. So he was always going to get a bit of a free ride there, and fans obviously are quite affectionate towards him. Certainly didn't want him to come in. Certainly wasn't in the top 10 or top 20 managers to come in. If it's Benitez of, say, 10, 12 years ago, then obviously I think he's probably a bit more open to it because of the fact that he had success not a long time before then. But I think now those days are probably behind him. But listen, as we just said before we started recording, this is what it is. We can't change it. No matter what we do, it's not going to change what the board have decided. He's in. He's spoken to numerous players. Jordan Pickford just said today he's been in contact with him. I think Calvert-Lewin's spoken to him as well. All the talk is he's a football man. Eats, breathes, sleeps football. All you can do now is give him a chance. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I wasn't happy when the appointment was rumoured. I wasn't happy when it was made. But moving forward, there's nothing we can do. He's the manager now. There were, some, as you mentioned, with the bedsheet protest or whatever, they didn't work. The board clearly, weren't particularly interested in the voices of the fans. He is now the manager, and that is something we are going to have to get used to. I think I agree that it is a slight concern. He went to China, really didn't do a lot, ended up coming back. Of course, it was under tricky circumstances. Was during the pandemic, away from your family, all sorts like that. There's a lot going on in China, I think, at the moment as well, with how much money they're actually allowed to pump into the side as well. I know there's been a lot of changes over that in the past few years. You look at his time at Newcastle, yeah, okay, very difficult circumstance. I think he walked away from Newcastle with, a profit in his net spend, which you really don't see many managers do, if at all, these days. So it's clear that at Newcastle he didn't win anything. He didn't get in the top off. He really didn't kind of push that far, but he was under very limited circumstances. I'm interested to see what he can do with a more expansive budget. Of course, at Newcastle, as you mentioned as well, Mike Ashley, tricky man. The Newcastle fans don't like him. Clearly wasn't an easy man to deal with, but maybe with a larger budget, we'll maybe see some improvement on that. But regardless of the Liverpool links, we all know we're all disappointed by them. There are some positives, of course. I'm not sure if you've read the Athletic article today. They speak about, he has his own database on players that, he has clips going back years and years. He's been known to, sleep at training grounds sometimes. He's clearly a very meticulous manager, likes to be very involved, which by the sounds of it, towards the end of Ancelotti's time in charge, it was more, his son, he was leading the training ground, leading the training for the players. Seems like Benitez is a lot more hands-on. He clearly loves football. So there are clearly, some positives to take from it. And we've seen how he's improved players as well. I've got to say, while he was at Newcastle, the likes of Jamal Lascelles, the likes of, Rondon even then, and you could argue Perez, he went for a massive fee just after he left, which I'll never truly understand. But he does develop players. And while he was at Newcastle, he did get the most out of the players that he did have. So we know we're disappointed, Mike, but what do you see as the positives for him, coming in now?
It's difficult, really, isn't it? Because I think the difficult part about it is because of how divisive it is. I think that he's not going to be probably awarded time or any kind of buffer to get things right. And I think with the start that we've got, the fixtures that we've got, they're fairly favourable. So there'll be an expectation on any mind, whether it was Ancelotti or obviously Benitez. The fact that the games that really you could argue on our day we should be winning all of those games. Obviously, it doesn't happen that way. There's some difficulties and sticky fixtures in there. But I think Everton fans have almost just got to reset a little bit and just think, okay, the board are being put in a difficult position in terms of no one saw, and they certainly didn't foresee, Carlo Ancelotti leaving in the summer. It was all a case of we were all, back into the season, weren't happy, obviously, with the loss to Man City. And missing out on European football and where we finished. But, we all thought Carlo would get a summer transfer window under his belt, another one, and bring in a bit more quality, and we can kick on and keep the likes of James and people like that. But that's not to be. And the board have been put in a difficult spot there and had to obviously bring a new manager in. I think in terms of positives, I think it's great the fact that it looks like all fans are going to be back in on the first game of the season. That's a positive. And for me, it's not worthwhile going in after the last 15, 18 months that we've had and going in there and booing the man and giving him grief from minute one and things like that. Let's remember what we've all been through, what we're still going through. The fact that we're going to be back at football grounds to support our club. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in charge. It's Everton. It's there are players. Let's back them, and let's see what he can do. At the end of the day, like I said, we can't change it. So there's absolutely no point now going into the ground and voicing any kind of dissent or concerns and things like that. It's not on him. It's not his fault. He's been brought in technically. He didn't make the decision to be hired by the club. That's on the board. Now whether that was Mashiri and Usmanov as an advisor, if you like. Whether Marcel Brands was on board or not, it seems that probably Bill Kenwright maybe wasn't, because he's obviously the historical elements of it. But it's on the board why he was appointed, not on the man himself. So you've got to put to the back of your mind that he's ex-Liverpool, he's managed Chelsea, Newcastle, Napoli, Real Madrid. He's managed all these sides, and I think what we need to try and do is, try and tap into that experience that he has got. We don't know how it's going to turn out. We could be in the same situation in 18 months, which I hope that we're not. And if we're not, it shows he's doing a good job. A lot of people are saying, well, not a lot of people, but I've seen people say, you know, they love us to lose the first 5-6 games so we can get them the sack. Well, what's the point? What's the point of that? What is the point of that? I'd love to see them win us trophies and take us to Bramley-Moore as a very successful side. That's what I want to see, because I want Everton Football Club to be successful and win trophies, no matter who is in charge. That's how it is. For me, he's got to be given the same grace and time that Carlo Ancelotti was given. At the end of the day, you know, we've been through, a superstar manager with Ancelotti. We've been through up-and-coming managers like Marco Silva, Martinez before then. We've been through names like Ronald Koeman, and nothing has worked. So that's not worked. So let's just give him the chance. Let him try and obviously build through this summer and try and build his own side. Let him get rid of obviously some deadwood as well. And let's see where we go. You know, we've just got to. We always say on our podcast about giving managers time, and it is really, really key. You know, we've been forced into the position of having a new manager. He's a man who's being picked, so let's afford him the time to try and build a side and try and make us a success going forward. That's all that I can really say. I can't tell people what to think. You know, people think what they think. Some people want to go to the game. Well, don't go to the game. You know, it's up to yourself, really. You know, other people will go to the game in your place. It's not a problem. But, you know, people have got their own opinions. Some people can't let it go, the fact that he's former Liverpool. That's up to them, totally up to them. But all I'd say is anyone who does go to the ground, you know, from the first game of the season, let's back the team. End of the day, that's our team. It's our club. We're there to support them no matter who's in the dugout. Simple as that.
Yeah. Absolutely, I completely agree, and I think something that is important as well, which in the kind of turbulence of Moshiri's era, where we're having managers every year, something we haven't really seen is finally we are going to get some kind of tactical continuity between the two managers. We know Ancelotti. I mean, we all know what Ancelotti's style was. You know, sit back, protect the lead, or play on the counter. It's basically exactly the same as Benitez. So, from a tactical, from a system perspective, that's going to be easier for the players, especially those who are going to have shorter pre-seasons than others because of European football, of course. We have seen coming off the back of European football in the past when the World Cup was on, we had players come in who weren't ready to bed in and then they were missing at the start of the season. We were picking up injuries. Now we've got that kind of tactical continuity. It's going to be a similar system. We're going to play with a similar mindset. I do think that's going to benefit the squad at this point. Whether that was something the board were really looking for, I'm not convinced. It seems like the blokes that have appointed Benitez were not the footballing blokes at the club, and instead, you know, the big names like Moshiri and Usmanov. But you know, I'm happy with that tactical continuity, which is going to help in the pre-season. It's going to help in the shorter pre-season. And something that has been mentioned now is transfer strategy. We know that Marcel Brands wasn't at the announcement yesterday because he was quarantining after returning from the Netherlands on business. It sounds like that's got something to do with transfers. We'd linked with Denzel Dumfries in the past, of course, the Dutch right back, who he was doing very well at the tournament. They obviously went out very early. So, Mike, big summer ahead now. Benitez has already said where, you know, he knows his transfer strategy. Where are you saying we need to improve? Maybe, you know, 2 or 3 positions where Benitez has to be looking at now in the summer to really help us push on.
Yeah, I mean, I think most definitely the right hand side was key. You know, in terms of certainly getting someone in at right back. We know Seamus Coleman has done a great job. Of course, he has, and he'll still do a decent job for us next season. But we definitely need someone in on that right hand side. Whether you want to see it as backup or someone to take over the mantle of the of our future right back, if you like. That's most definitely a position. I think the right hand side in front of that as well needs to be improved. You know, a lot though depends on who goes. I mean, I've just got a sneaky suspicion that we will see one of the assets go. Now, whether that's Luca Dean, Richarlison's probably the one that you think is going to be the one to move on. Personally, could be totally wrong, you know, but only going off what was said last summer, the fact that Carlo got him to stay. I think maybe Richarlison could be the one who's moved on, and if he is, and what we'll then see is we'll then see probably someone on the left hand side come in, backup striker for Dominic Calvert-Lewin potentially. You know, there was talk that we've been linked to a striker, Swiss striker, as of last night as well. So yeah, I think the right hand side is key. You know, if Alan goes, then you're going to be a centre mid short. We don't know how Jean-Philippe Gbamin's going to react to a full pre-season with a bit of luck. So it's going to be difficult It just depends on who we're going to move on. I really think that's going to play into the thinking. Of course, it will do. But right hand side is key. Another centre mid who's a bit more dynamic. If James moves on, it's looking more and more likely he's off to AC Milan. So you're going to want to try and get someone who's creative in, because if you take him out of our side, that's a massive void to fill. I know people will argue he's only fit for, say, 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the season or of our Premier League games. But what he was doing, his numbers were good, and his assists were good, his goals were good for the time he was on the pitch. So that's a massive void to fill. Who can come in and do that kind of job? Who knows? It all depends whether they're going to look to bring in, say, another superstar name, or they're going to look to bring in, a more young, up and coming name, someone in the mould or in the category and bracket of a Ben Godfrey kind of age, and give them the chance to come in and try and put their stamp on the sides. But right hand side, definitely, I'd say another centre mid, definitely, and a backup striker or another striker to push Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yes, I mean, you can argue goalkeeper, like Romero or also maybe back to push Pickford really helped us out. I think the second half of the season, I thought Pickford was exceptional, and he's continued it into the European Championship. So we always need players who can push the player in front of them, because that way the performances do tend to improve. But it's a big summer, and it's going to be dictated, I think, by who moves on. And I think there could be quite a few names out the door, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said about having to improve that right hand side. I think we need a starting right back now. I think if we were going to sign a backup, I don't think it would make that much sense, because we know Coleman's probably only got a few years left, at an acceptable level. So I think you need to start at right back. That would be my first position I'd go for. After that, I completely agree with the right hand side. We definitely need a winger. We haven't really got many proper wingers of quality in the squad. You look at proper wingers like Bernard, but he likes to come inside. Iwobi likes to come inside. Richarlison, we know he likes to play at striker. It's an interesting situation where we don't really actually seem to have that many actual wingers at the club, and it's definitely something we need. Someone who's going to take on a man, someone who's going to cause problems to a back line, and that they will be my priorities. I understand the calls for a central midfielder as well. Just add more creativity in there, really, because I love the signs of Decore and Alan, but they're not particularly creative players. And if you're having to put Gomez as your creative outlet there, I'm not positive for the rest of the season, definitely. And I think the goalkeeper's almost a position that it's almost a given. I think they're going to get someone, whether it is Olsen or Ramiro. They do seem to be the two big names. But I completely agree there in terms of transfer strategy. We don't know what's going to happen with Moise Keane yet. A lot of talk about him going out on loan again, which would be a moronic move by the club. Just get the money from now. He doesn't want to play for us. Move him on. Get good money. He had a good season at PSG. And then we'll see where we go from there. But we'll have to see what happens with that. But it's going to be an interesting summer, definitely. Apparently Benitez does have a clear transfer strategy in mind, so we'll have to see how that plays out, especially considering we know Mossa Brands has said in the past, whenever there's an international tournament on, it's always trickier when you're trying to make signings. And we've still got, the likes of Yerry Mina and Richarlison away at the Copa America, so it's all going to take time for the squad to come back together, but hopefully it works out. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the video. Mike, have you got kind of any rounding off thoughts you want to say just before we end the video?
No, as I said before, it's going to be a case of we've just got to get on with things. We've got to try and support the manager as best we can, and let's hopefully see a better season than last season. And we're not going to improve or be any better by giving the man stick week in, week out. We've got to just look now to put us at the back of our minds. Let's see what he can do. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It is what it is. We've just got to back the man in, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Even may as well back him from the start. If it goes wrong, we've seen fans turn on managers before. That's what happens. Criticise him when he gets something wrong. If he's doing something right, and we're winning games of football, we're pushing a European football, potentially even a trophy. I mean, what are you meant to do? You can't still complain. Then you can't keep getting at the manager. So I'd say, back him from the start. If things go wrong, if he's losing games of football, then absolutely you can criticise him like every other manager ever. But that does bring us to the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, do let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. about the hiring of Rafa Benitez? What kind of transfer strategy do you want to see as well? Maybe name a couple of positions, a couple of players. Maybe we didn't really get into actual names, but we know the key positions where we are going to have to strengthen in the summer. So thanks to Mike for joining me. Thank you all very much for watching, and join us next time on the Toffee Blues.